What's up, Night Owl? Steely here, back with another Candlekeep video, and today we're going to be looking at a deep and creeping darkness. And as always, I've got some brand new maps for you guys, one for Vermaelen, one for the Mayor's House, and one for the Platinum Mine. You can find those maps in the Discord, link is in the description. Join the Discord, set your role to Dungeon Master, and the maps will be available to you in the Dungeon Master's Resources channel. And if you're interested in seeing these games run live, I do stream on Twitch, link is also down there in the description. You can come by and see exactly how I run each adventure, what changes I make along the way. And if you have any questions for me directly, you can ask them there. Now, the premise of A Deep and Creeping Darkness is that a platinum mine collapsed 70 years ago, trapping a bunch of miners in the mine shafts. The result of the collapse and the fear of all the miners being trapped caused mean locks to spawn within the platinum mine. And this caused a ton of problems for the mining town right outside the platinum mine. A handful of miners managed to escape, but it was too late. The mean locks had already spawned in, and they started kidnapping the villagers. Over time, more and more villagers started disappearing, and the town became more and more panicked until finally everyone abandoned it or got kidnapped, and now Vermaelen is just a ghost town. The book that is this chapter's namesake, A Deep and Creeping Darkness, is a series of vignettes from the people who were there at Vermaelen and traveling merchants, as well as some people who were in the nearby villages. And it chronicles the eventual collapse of Vermaelen, and it goes through all these accounts of the things that would happen. So the party can learn about the village, learn about the mine collapse, and learn about the disappearances from this book. Now, if you didn't tie this adventure in with the previous adventures, like I suggested in chapter 1, that's okay. You can have a group of miners that are interested in that platinum mine and want to reopen it, reach out to the party, and they could offer them a sum of money in exchange for investigating the mine, finding out what's in there. 500 gold pieces per adventure is pretty solid. Also, they'll have the opportunity to reopen the mine and start a business. I'll go over that later in this video. But the miners can reach out to the party. The party can do the research. They can find the book in Candlekeep, or one of the miners could send them a copy of the book, and they could do it that way. It's entirely up to you, but one way or another, the party can get a hold of this book and find out about the mine, and then they're going to want to investigate. Now, the party's first stop on the road to Vermaelen is Mairen. This is the last bastion of civilization before they have to climb the mountain to reach Vermaelen. So it's likely that the party will stop here in Mairen and ask some questions around town. Most notably, there are two NPCs that have some information about Vermaelen because they were in the town during the collapse, which makes them pretty old. Both of them are old. Lucas is 98 and he runs the Bored Weasel, and Astra runs a flower stand, and they are about 68 years old. So they were single digits, very young at the time of the collapse. Lucas and his wife were both miners at the time that the platinum mine collapsed, and he actually lost his wife during the disaster, which is why he left the town in the first place and ended up in Mairen. If the party asks him about this and chats him up and lets Lucas know that they're going to Vermaelen, he'll ask them to put flowers on his wife's grave, and he'll also ask them to check in a hole in the side of the tree in the center of town and look for her locket and bring it back to him. This retrieving of the necklace and bringing it back to Lucas doesn't have a quest reward. I personally rewarded them with a common magic item. You could go with an uncommon, or maybe some gold pieces, whatever you think fits a miner turned tavern keeper as a reward for bringing the necklace back. A great place to buy flowers for Lucas' wife is Astra, who is in the market squares selling flowers. And Lucas may even suggest that they go visit Astra, who was also in Vermaelen during the time of the collapse, but was very young, so they don't have very much information to give. But they could stop by Astra, role play with them, give them a personality, and also they could buy flowers for Lucas' wife. Now, unfortunately, that's all the information that the book gives you on Mairen. I flavored it up a little bit. It doesn't have a map. I gave it a few locations. I really left it up to the party how much time they want to spend here. I kind of made it a generic small town with a hefty market square. And if your party wants to spend a little bit more time in Mairen, you can come up with some NPCs and some shops in order for them to interact with, give them something to do. The meat of this adventure takes place in Vermaelen, the Mayor's House, and the Platinum Mine. And I think that this adventure is pretty well timed for a 4-hour adventure. I actually added a bandit encounter on the way to Mairen, and it kind of added to the time a bit. I kind of went over 4 hours for all my groups, but that's up to you. I just wanted to add a little bit of combat in there in case they spent a lot of time in Mairen and Vermaelen and didn't have a combat encounter. But there is an alternative to that. You can have mean locks attack the party as soon as they arrive in Vermaelen, which is what we're going to cover next. The town of Vermaelen has 6 keyed locations. The rest of the buildings here are collapsed in rubble, and there's nothing of value in them. The first location is the Wand and the Hammer. The couple that ran this shop abandoned Vermaelen after the disappearances started happening. If the party searches this building and passes a DC 13 investigation check, they will find a false floor panel with various treasure inside. With a DC 18 investigation, they will find a ring of swimming under a workbench. Area 2 is the stonemason's workshop, and it's here the party will find a number of headstones, one of which is unfinished, and the tools are just laying out next to this partially finished headstone, sort of hinting at the fact that the stonemason was snatched up right in the middle of their work. Area 3 is the mayor's house, and this location actually has a map of its very own, and I'll address that in just a moment. Area 4 is the tree. This is the tree that Lucas spoke of, and they can find the pendant in a hollow of the tree. If they didn't speak to Lucas beforehand, they need to succeed on a 15 investigation to find the necklace. Area 5 is the graveyard, and this is where the party can find the grave of Lucas's wife Lorna, and they can also place the flowers at the grave, which will result in a soft, content sigh on the wind. I personally made this reward a little more meaningful and gave each party member 10 temporary hit points for laying the flowers at the grave. Area 6 is the merchant's cart. This cart belonged to a traveling merchant that was snatched up by meanlocks less than a year ago. With a survival check, the party may be able to identify some scratches and tooth marks on the cart, and with a DC 15 investigation, they can find a hidden compartment in the driver's seat, which has 15 gold pieces. Now, while the party is exploring Vermaelen, the meanlocks are going to be keeping an eye on them and sort of psychologically harassing them as they explore the town. So you could take this opportunity to kind of up the creep factor. Weird things start happening with the light. They see things out of the corner of their eye. They hear voices. They hear whispers, things like that. The meanlocks are going to be harassing them throughout their exploration of the town, until they finally have a confrontation with the meanlocks, which is entirely up to you when that happens. I've done it at the mayor's house, or you can do it as soon as they arrive at the village, depending on how bloodthirsty your party is, if they haven't had a combat up to this point. The timing of when you reveal the meanlocks is important, so keep that in mind when you want to sort of reveal their presence and the party just finds out what they're up against. If your party takes a long rest here in the village, they need to make a DC 13 wisdom check or suffer a level of exhaustion due to the nightmares of the meanlocks harassment. Now, I mentioned that the mayor's house has its own map, so let's have a look at that. Area 1 is the entryway. There's nothing of interest here. There's a couple of cloaks hanging from a hook on the left. You can add some common treasure like a few potions or scrolls if you like in the cloaks. That's what I did, but that's up to you. Area 2 is the assembly room, and it's here the party will see where the mayor addressed the village council. They can also find a watercolor painting of a mountain range worth 2 gold pieces and a chunk of raw platinum ore from the mine worth 25 gold pieces. I flavored this room up a little bit by adding some notes on the podium, things like what the mayor did in response to the disappearances at first, like having a buddy system in the town where everyone has to travel in pairs, and also arming all the villagers with weapons, which both of these did not help, but you can add those notes there to kind of show that these things, like the mayor was trying to solve the problem. Area 3 is the meeting room. There's nothing of interest here except for an oil painting of the mayor herself, and it's at this point that you can actually give a description of the mayor, which will come into play later when the party faces a meanlock that is wearing the mayor's ring, and this will sort of hint at the fate of the mayor. Area 4 is the dining room. Table, chairs, a few shelves, and a fireplace. Nothing of interest in this room. Area 5 is the parlor, and this was sort of a waiting room for people who wanted to address the mayor. Now, there's nothing to really indicate that in this room, so I added a sort of sign-in sheet on the desk. Just ways to hint at the fact that this room was a waiting room for people who wanted to see the mayor. You could also use a sign-in sheet to have some NPC names that will pop up later in the campaign. That option is also available to you. Area 6 is the upstairs landing, and it's here the party will find 4 closed doors leading to the various bedrooms, as well as an opening leading into the library. Area 7 is the daughter's bedroom, and this room belonged to the mayor's daughter, Nia. There's nothing really of interest here. The chimney collapsed long ago, and there's just some rubble over the bed and on the floor. Area 8 is the master bedroom, and it's here the party will find a letter to another town from the mayor asking for help in dealing with the disappearances and the collapsed mine. The party will also find the mayor's journal, which chronicles the disaster at the mine, and it will also inform the party that the mayor's wife, Tifra, and their 2 children, Tavin and Nia, have left for the town of Mairen, leaving the mayor behind to deal with the issue. Area 9 is the library, and it's here the party will find several of the mayor's research notes about mean locks, and it's here that you can sort of give them a bunch of information on mean locks and where they came from and their weaknesses, which is bright light. And this is a great spot for the party to learn about mean locks if they haven't up to this point. Area 10 is the guest bedroom, and there's nothing of interest here. It's empty except for the bed and the fireplace, and it has an air of loneliness about it. Area 11 is the son's bedroom, and this room belonged to Tavin, the mayor's son. And there's nothing really of interest here. It's similar to the previous rooms. It's got the bed and the fireplace. And if the party looks under the bed, they will find a small stuffed toy bugbear. Now, I did add a number of potions and scrolls throughout the rooms of this house just to make it a little more interesting to explore. One of note, a scroll of remove curse. And I added a note that the mayor ordered a scroll of remove curse from a nearby mage in order to help the town in hopes of removing the curse that was placed on the town. They thought maybe a remove curse spell could do the trick. So the mayor had that order and the party could find that. I also added some alchemist fire to the little boy's room. Maybe he was a little mischievous little boy and he had, some alchemist fire. He's going to plan on setting something on fire. Or if you want to make the boy a little bit more heroic, a magical sling. Maybe the boy was planning on trying to fight the mean locks himself, save the town himself. He could go that route. Things like that. Just some potions and scrolls to flavor up the loot in this house because it's pretty bare as it is. Now let's have a look at the platinum mine. Area 1 is the main tunnel, and it's here that the party will start to plunge into darkness, and they'll begin to hear whispers, needing a DC 14 wisdom saving throw, or they will suffer from disadvantage on intelligence and wisdom checks from the distraction of the whispers and the shifting movement within the mine. Area 2 is the southern wing. This tunnel dead ends at a small chamber that has worn picks and rusty shovels and 2 hand carts filled with debris and rags. There's also 3 swarms of bats on the ceiling that will be alerted and attack the party if they make a noise louder than a whisper. Area 3 is the northern wing, and this room is similar to Area 2. It's a tunnel that dead ends to an opening, and if you want to spice up this area a bit because there's nothing really here, if you want to add something interesting, you can have a dead miner and you can put whatever loot you'd like this miner to have on their body for the party to find. Otherwise, it's just an empty tunnel and they have to backtrack. Area 4 is the cave-in. This is the site of the disaster that happened 70 years ago. And if the party attempts to move any rocks around or do any digging, they're going to need to make a dexterity saving throw as rubble shifts and collapses on top of them, and they'll take 2d6 bludgeoning on a fail. Area 5 is the entrance to the mean lock layer, and it's from here the tunnel shifts to a more unnatural look. The walls are smooth and covered in black moss, and there's something really eerie about this tunnel. A successful DC 14 Arcana or Nature will reveal that the tunnels were not created by hand, claw, or tool, but rather by magic or another strange effect. And this, of course, is the mean locks spawning into the mine due to the fear of the miners. Area 6 is the Chamber of Weeping. Here the party will be attacked by tentacles of black moss that sprout from the walls, forcing the creature into to make a DC 14 dex save or get grappled by them. If the tentacles manage to grapple someone, this is an opportunity for the mean locks to ambush the party. Area 7 is the Mossy Maze, and it's here that the mean locks will try to pick off anybody that wanders too far from the group. Area 8 is the Pools. Just above this cave is a shallow lake that is a passage into the Feywild, and that lake slowly drip feeds into this cave, creating these pools in the floor. A character with Feywild in their backstory, maybe one of the new Feywild races from the Unearthed Arcana, or any kind of Fey in their backstory may recognize this cave as being something off about it. Maybe they can get those vibes of the Feywild from this location. Just to sort of hint that the passage into the Feywild is close to this location. You can add a black pudding to one of the pools here in this cavern, and maybe even the mean locks will ambush while the party fights the black pudding, seeing an opportunity to kind of get in there and do some damage. Area 9 is the Transformation Chamber. The miners that were turned into mean locks use the remnants of their knowledge to rig explosive to the pillars here so that they can collapse the ceiling. If a fight breaks out here as a last resort, the mean locks will trigger the explosion and then shadow teleport away, dropping the ceiling down on top of the party. Clearing this area out, though, the party will find a set of goggles of night and also some valuable treasure. Now, I intentionally left it vague how many mean locks were here in the platinum mine and how many were in the town of Vermaelen. The book puts it at 6, but you may want to up that number to make it more challenging for a bigger party, or lower it for a smaller party. It just depends on the party makeup. The mean locks are pretty easy to run. They have an 11 intelligence, so they will have some combat tactics. They may flank if you run that rule. Also, they have claws that will cause paralysis, and they have a teleport that will cause them to teleport away if they get into a bind. And finally, they have a fear aura at the start of anybody's turn who's near the mean lock. They can be frightened with a wisdom save. So that's just something to keep in mind for this combat. There's going to be a lot of saves getting thrown down. For every claw, that's going to be a con save. For everybody that's close to the mean lock is going to need a wisdom save. And also, these mean locks are going to have disadvantage if they're swinging at somebody that's carrying a torch or any other light source, because they do have light sensitivity. The bright light, they have disadvantage. So if they're swinging at the torch bearer, keep that in mind. Make sure you have the radius ready. Like, keep in mind how far out their bright light goes, because they're going to have disadvantage while they're in there. And they're also not going to be able to teleport from locations that have that bright light. So they're going to try to be really tactical. They may even try to extinguish the light if they have that option. So that's just another thing to keep in mind when running these mean locks. Now, once the party has cleared out all of the mean locks from the platinum mine and Vermaelen in the town is safe, the party gets to decide what to do with this platinum mine. Now, this part is exciting. What I personally did was I used the rules for running a business in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and also some of the rules for opening the tavern, which is in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist adventure module. So just to put it simply, what I did and what I'm doing for my current games is, if they want to reopen the mine and establish a business, it will cost 1,000 gold upfront cost just to get everything situated. That's materials and hiring miners and just getting everything ready. And then from there, they can spend 10 downtime actions to get the mine up and running. And after that, the mine starts generating a profit. And you can use the table in the Dungeon Master's Guide to determine how much profit. Depending on how long your campaign is going to go, I may up the amount of profit they make from the mine, just so that they can recoup the cost that they spent into it, that 1,000 gold pieces that they put into the mine. They can get that back within the campaign, since my campaigns are only going to run for the length of Candlekeep. I'm going to have one session for each chapter, so the campaign won't go on for very long. So in order to recoup the cost and actually get profit from this mine, I'm going to increase that amount a little bit. But the DMG has a guide on making the profit and running a business. I recommend that you check that out. I'm going to put the chart right here on the screen for you guys to look at to see the chart. You can pause the video real quick and just have a quick glance at it. Again, 1,000 gold upfront cost, and then some downtime actions to reopen the mine, and then they can start generating a profit every session, depending on how you do downtime. Again, I do downtime between each adventure because these are one shots, so there's an opportunity to get some downtime in there. But that's entirely up to you. It's just my suggestion. And that's it for A Deep and Creeping Darkness. Overall, I really enjoyed this adventure. I feel like it didn't require that much work on the DM's part. It's pretty great to run as is. You don't need to make a whole lot of changes. There's not a lot of combat, so if you have a more combat-focused group, you can spice things up with a bandit encounter on the way. Remember that the groups that I ran, we ran over the 4-hour mark when I added the encounter. So that's just something to keep in mind. The time is pretty good way it is, so anything you add to it may add to the time. So that's just something to keep in mind. How much time do you have available to run this session? But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this one. It was a really good, cool story. Yeah, I like the NPCs in Mairen, and yeah. So if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to be a part of this D&D community, make sure you join the Discord. Link is down there in the description. Come by, ask questions, let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you at sundown.